Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem. Welcome back to today's Daf Yomi. BECHOROS Lamed Ches. We begin 5 lines from the top. The Snan or the Sanya Zu Heidus Heid Chizkiah. The following halacha was presented as testimony by Chizkiah. His name was Chizkiah Abi Ikesh. Perhaps his son's name was Ikesh. In any case, he presented as follows. Now, how did this get into our discussion? So, really, it relates to matters of Tumah v'Tahara, which is a totally different topic. But the Gemara yesterday concluded that we can solve the apparent difficulty with the halacha of Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel regarding the size of the puncture of the missing part of the skull, which disables it from tumas oil. The question was exactly what size are we talking about? We had an issue with that, and we attempted to resolve it by coming up with some creative, approach to understanding the shear, and the Gemara responded, "Yep, right on, and you should rely on it." Tzarech li talis aleh, 4 lines from the top of the Amid. You can rely on it with confidence. Ki Chizkiah Abi Ikesh. So Rashi learns, he meant to say, good going. Kalaymar yochal ata lismech al davar zeh. Good response, good answer, good solution. You can be confident in your solution. Just as Chizkiah Abi Ikesh, says Rashi, shenismech al idusai, who relied and was confident on his position. Nobody challenged him. It was clear cut, and it was substantiated. But Tosfos has a different pshat. He says what he was trying to tell him is that we have some difficulty in the understanding of the Mishnah, right? You have to work. Says Tosfos. You have to really put in an effort to figure it out, to solve it. And don't just, tinker with modify the words and change the girsa. Just as we find in the next Gemara, where there was a halacha presented by Chizkiah Abi Ikesh, who presents this cryptic sounding formula, which the Gemara endeavors in great lengths to clarify and understand it. So you meant to put an effort to gain clarity. That was his point. Okay, so what in fact did he tell us? The Sanya Zu Heidus Heyud Chizkiah Abi Ikesh. He presented the following formula lifnei in front of Rabban Gamliel b'Yavna. As we know, the yeshiva, the Sanhedrin, was in Yavna after the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. That's where the center of Torah was, and that's where he came to present this formula. And he quoted the Zayda She'amar Mishum Gamliel Azakin. He quoted the elder of Gamliel as follows: Kol she'en lo yiteich b'kli cheres, ein lo yacharayim l'chalika. Now, initially, it's going to sound a bit cryptic, but later the Gemara will explain exactly what he had in mind. So, a klicheres is a kli made of clay. So, if it has no toich, it has no interior, and it has no containment area, so like a flat tray, we don't differentiate between the back, the acharayim, the back of the exterior of the kli, versus the inside. Which basically means that we don't consider them two separate surface areas, and therefore the tumah just conducts right through. So if the tumah touched the inside, it travels to the outside. Touch the outside, travels into the inside. We don't differentiate. We don't make a chaluk. And he explains, Nitma toichet, the tumah arrived in the inside of the kli. Nitma gabay, the tumah extends over to the back as well. The tumah reached the back, it traveled into the inside as well. Ask the Gemara, Kli Cheres, what are you talking about, Kli Cheres? So if it has no toich, it can become tamei? Of course not. Look in the Torah. Torah, when speaking about a Kli Cheres, specifies that it has to have a toich, has to have a containment area, has to be a container. Kli Cheres b'toich tol rachmana. Okay, Torah conditions that it must have a toich to become tamei. Islay toichi tamalei. If it has a containment area, it can become tamei, but otherwise not. Leslay toich lo yitamalei. So how can you teach otherwise? Amar Rabbi Yitzchak bar Abin. You're right. Forget about Kli Cheres. He's speaking about kli shetef, a container made of other materials, metal, for instance. It's called shetef because it could be rinsed, it could be immersed in a mikveh to achieve tahara, to relieve itself of tumah, which a klicheres can't. It could only become tar if you break it. So that's why it's called kli shetef. So kli shetef is what he's talking about. Hachikam, he meant like this. Kol she'en lo toich b'klicheres. So klicheres, which has no containment, we're just using that as a precedent, as a formula, as an equation, just like by klicheres without a toich. Kenegdoi, correspondingly, if in fact it's a metal kli, b'klei shetef, ein lo echarayim l'chalika, but it has no toich. So the backside is not different, is not treated separate, like a different zone than the inside. Meaning, in a minute the Gemara is going to ask, why can't he just speak directly about a klei shetef? Why start with a reference to klicheres and make this equation? We'll get that in a minute. In any case, ein lo echarayim l'chalika, we don't differentiate between the back and the inside. In which case, nitma toich and nitma gabay. If the tumah arrived at the inside of the metal kli, then the whole thing, including the back, becomes tummy, but not in the reverse. Nitma gabay, nitma toich. So in this case, it goes both ways. The tumah is on the inside, the back is tummy. Nitma gabay, if the tumah touched the outside, nitma toich, the inside is also tummy, because it has no, two zones. It doesn't have a toich. So if it has a proper containment area, we differentiate between the inside and the outside. So the tumah reaches the inside, it spreads throughout the outside as well, but not vice versa. But if it's just a flat, tray which has no distinct containment area, we don't differentiate. The tumah conducts, both ways equally. Now for the obvious question, why hinge the metal kli with the klicheres? Nema, simply, you can state it outright. Speak directly about the metal kli. If it's a klei shetef, a metal kli without a distinct interior, just a flat tray, for instance, we don't differentiate between the top, which is the surface area, the functional area, versus the back. It's all one big happy family, and the tumah travels in both directions equally. Why reference to klicheres? He was trying to highlight this distinction. The yesh lo toich klicheres. Now that's a fact that by klicheres, the tumah can only affect it if it reaches the inside. By the way, by klicheres doesn't have to actually touch the material on the inside, even within the airspace. But in any case, it has to be within the containment area. So by the klicheres, the tumah only travels through the inside. Right? So the inside and then over to the outside. But a klicheres is not susceptible to tumah from behind, from the exterior. It's the halacha. So he's using that as a sort of a precedent to this concept that you can have a one-way tumah. Where do we find a one-way tumah? By klicheres. Where even a tumah d'oraisa only travels one way. Tumah starts from the inside to the outside, but not vice versa. So he needs to use that as a point of reference and carry that element over to klei shetef, at least by tumah d'rabbanan. Let's see. No kamashma, he's trying to teach us like this. The yesh lo toich, if a metal kli has a distinct containment area, like a pot, then hariyu klicheres. It's treated like a klicheres. Klicheres, ma klicheres nitma toich nitma gabi, just like a klicheres in this instance, when it has a containment area. If the tumah reaches the inside, it's matama even the back, so it travels from inside out. But lo nitma toich nitma gabi. But if there's no tumah on the inside, just on the outside, it's resistant to tumah on the outside. Af kli shetef. The same thing with the kli shetef. It follows a similar track. If it is a proper containment vessel, like a pot, it follows the same track. Nitma toicha nitma gabay. The tumah reaches the inside, then the whole thing, including the outside, becomes tamei. Lo nitma toicha nitma gabay. If the tumah does not reach the inside, rather only touches the outside, it is resistant to tumah. Ask the Gemara, how could you say that? That one-way system is specific to klicheres. We don't find that by metal kalim. Bishleim is certainly klicheres by a clay pot. Gali berachman atoichai reveals that the tumah only travels from the inside out. Ella klei shetef, but a metal kli migali berachman atoichai. What does the Torah speak about? A containment area. You're right. Says the Gemara, Iba tumah d'oraisa chenami. We're talking about a proper tumah, a Torah, a real, lizard. Of course, There's a huge difference by KosherTube. Only the inside is susceptible to tumah, not the outside. But by KosherTube, it doesn't really matter whether tumah touched the inside or the outside. That's by tumah d'oraisa. In our Gemara, we're talking about a unique type of tumah, but tumah's mashkin. So we're talking about the metal kli touched liquid which became tameh. Now liquid cannot be metame a person or a kli. A person or a kli can only become tumah from an av hatumah, a source of tumah, as opposed to liquid which imported its tumah from elsewhere, and it's only considered a rishon l'tumah. It's a downgraded level of tumah. It can't be metame a kli. But the Rabbanon is metame a kli. And the reason is, Rashi explains, otu mashkin of zava. You see, there are some liquids which are actually avatumah. They're produced by a person who's a zava. Those liquids have a status of source tumahs, avatumah. They give metame a kli. So on account of those liquids, not to get things confused, Chacham applied the same ability or similar ability to any type of mashkin which becomes tameh, just on account of those avatumahs. But since it's only tumah the Rabbanon wanted to highlight that it's a limited tumah. They didn't want you to treat it like a tumah d'oraisa, lest you come to burn truma that touched this kli, which isn't really justified. It's only tumah the Rabbanon. So in order to highlight that it's only tumah the Rabbanon, they limited it to a certain extent, and they said, look, if it's a pot which has two zones, inside and outside, you know what? It's going to follow a similar parameter to a kli cheres. And yeah, if the mashkin touches it on the inside, yeah, it becomes tameh. But only on the outside, it's resistant. That's only if it's a utensil which is properly configured with an inside and an outside, so we have two distinctive zones, we can make this differentiation. But if it's just a flat tray, let's say, it doesn't have inside or outside, then there's no differentiation. It's all one big happy family. And it's susceptible to tumah mashkin d'Rabbanan, whether on the functional side or the back side, doesn't matter. And that was Chizkiah v'Ikesh's lesson of the day. So again, we're talking about tumah mashkin d'Rabbanan, that the kli received tumah from a tumah mashkin, which only d'Rabbanan. It's not, as we have a Mishnah to this effect. Kli shenit machar v'mashkin. So we have a kli, let's say a metal kli, whose back touched mashkin which are tameh. Being that it's only the Rabbanon, we limit the tumah. Achor of tmein, the tumah stays on the outside. But toicha, the inside, agnai, the air, the handle, aznai, the agnai zari is the base, even if it has a receiving area. Aznai, the round handles, like the ears of the other, the long handles, Torah, they stay Torah. They're resistant because they're separate zones. That's because the tumah touched the outside. But nitma toicha. But if the mashkin reaches the inside of this kli, in that case, kuloi tameh spreads throughout the entire entity. So we make one point of distinction to highlight that Talmud Rabbanan, which is that we're talking about a KosherTube which has a containment area versus the exterior, and the tumah mashkin touched the outside. So the tumah is limited to the outside only. And the Gemara explains why. What's the basis for this distinction? Because the truth is minat Torah, ein oichel matame kli. Food or drink, which can never really reach the level of avatuma. At most, they can only receive tumah from elsewhere. So inevitably, they're going to be a downgraded status. Rishon l'tumah, that can't be matame, a person or a kli. For Rabbanon do gazer b'shemashka zav b'zav. Oh, Rabbanon, the Gemara specified. The Chacham were concerned that it might be confused with other liquids which are tamei to a very severe level, mashka zav b'zav. So they treated all mashkin tamei to a certain extent, like avatuma, hilkach shavir rabban ketuma de klecheres. And the reason why the Chachamim treated this tumas mashkin sort of with leniency, similar to they gave it the same rules as a clay kli, despite being a metal kli, like as we explained. In which case, if the tumah touches the back, only the back is. You know why? But they did not treat it like a tumah d'oraisa. Why? So they gave it a din of tumah kli cheres. Rashi says that if the tumah touches the back, the inside remains tahar. Like kli cheres, actually, the whole thing remains tahar, but in any case, it doesn't travel to the inside. So they gave it a similar status to tumas kli cheres, but They did not give it full-fledged tumah, as though it's a tumah deraisa affecting a kli shetef. Why? Why, if the tumah touched the outside, does it not travel to the inside like tumah deraisa? Of the rabbanon hakera, Chacham established a point of distinction to highlight that it's only tumah derabbanon. What for? So that the loyalist of alei truma b'kashim not going to burn on account of this tumah b'kashim and touch this kli. It's only tumah derabbanon. So again, his point was, just like we find by klei cheres that we divide into two zones, likewise by klei shetef regarding tumah derabbanon, tumas mashkin, we divide into two zones. So if it's a kli that has two zones, an inside and an outside, so the tumah touched the outside, it doesn't travel to the inside. But if it has no two zones, it's just a flat tray, even though it has the top side, which is the more functional side, and the back side, it doesn't matter. In this case, it says, why? Even it has no distinct content area, it's just a flat tray. Let's also make this distinction, this highlighting, that, depends where the tumah touched, the back or the front. Well, there's no need to make additional distinctions. Since in the case of yesh leteich, a container, a pot, we already made that established distinction. And everybody understands the topic at hand, the ein leteich derabbanon, that likewise, anytime mashkin touches a kli, it's only the rabbanon. There's no need to make another distinction, meaning suffice to all that we made that distinction by the pot, differentiate between the inside and the outside. There's no need to make additional distinctions by like a tray, differentiate between the front and the back. In order to highlight that it's tumah derabbanon, we already understand it from the pot scenario. Okay, so by the pot, it's a rather clear-cut difference. We have the inside, we have the outside, but by a tray, it's not so visible, so there's no need to go all out and make additional, split hairs. Says the Gemara, we're talking about tumah derabbanon affecting a tray which has no toich. Says the Gemara, why are we applying a tumah derabbanon to a tray? Even a Torah tray is not going to become tummy. It needs to have a content area. Ve'en le'toich b'klei shetef daraisa b'akibula tumuhu a klei shetef which has no distinct containment area. Even when a Torah is going to become tummy, even if it touches tumah daraisa, it's not tummy. Look, the pasuk compares other materials to a sack. A sack has containment abilities. Yuma de sak b'inon. The other materials have to be similar to a sack, which is mentioned in that pasuk. What signifies a sack? Ma sak metaltal molivarekin. A sack is meant to be transported full or empty, meaning it has containment abilities. Av kol metaltal molivarekin. Likewise, other materials must have containment abilities to be susceptible to tumah. So why would a metal tray become tummy at all? Well, says the Gemara, b'hanach dechaz l'medrasois. We're talking about a flat, metal utensils which can be used for sitting, medras, for a zav, for a zava. So it's a totally different. It works a totally different, a system. Tumas medras does not need content. Even a bench could be used for a medras. So since it has that function, it can become tummy. Says the Yochicheres Nami. So why by klicheres? Do we, not apply tumah when it has no containment ability? Rashi says, we should have a gzeira derabbanan. If mashkin touches it, a klicheres should become tummy, because at times a klicheres can become tummy even without a toich, even without toich, if it's fit for sitting. So the Gemara, no. Ain't medras be klicheres. Klicheres cannot become medras. Why? So you would think it's like, one of those halachis and taharis which aren't necessarily understood to us. Rashi gives a very practical reason. He says, she's shaver, it's going to break. Clay breaks, I'm meant for sitting. Interesting that the Gilui Nashas, Rebbe Eger, refers to a different Rashi elsewhere. I believe he says that it's based on halacha. But here he gives a very simple, practical approach. It's not meant for sitting. Okay, so in conclusion, Chizkiah v'ikesh Torah is interesting. Halacha. So, Minat Torah, if it's a Tumah D'Oraisa, by Kalei Cheres, it needs to have Toich. And in fact, the Tumah can only travel through the Toich. Tumah reaches the inside, then the Kli becomes Tummy. But the outside is resistant to Tumah. Conversely, by Kalei Shetef, the Tumah can go both ways. Minat Torah. However, if it's Tumah D'Rabbanan, we sort of limit it. In a case where the Kli has a proper Toich, so in that case, we say if the Mashkan touches the inside, the entire thing is tummy, but if it touches it from the outside, it stays there, it does not travel inside. Continues the Gemara. So this is a throwback to yesterday, basically. Let's just backtrack a second to gain clarity. So we had a Machlekes B'Shamai B'Hillel. The Gulgolos, the skull, is matama anything under the same roof, provided it's a full skull. Let's say it's missing. It loses that ability. It loses that tumas oil. How much missing? B'Shamai say makdeyach. The hole is the size of a drill bit, a standard size. And B'Hillel, well, it's only matame if the person could have survived with this skull, but otherwise, if it's too much missing, it loses the tumah. Question was, the Gemara related that the shear of survival is a sela, which in the next Mishnah we see corresponds to the magdeach, to the drill. So if survival is sela and sela is drill, so misham and misila is the same thing. Drill and survival is the same thing, both sela. That was the question. We had one answer yesterday. Magdeach means a little bit of a roomy magdeach with a little wiggle spit. Here comes another text. Rapapa Amar Magdeach Gadol Shanino. The Brisa equated magdeach to sela. If you look at the wording of the Mishnah in the bottom of Lamed Zayin base, it says magdeach Gadol Shalishka, the large, extra size drill of the lishka. That matches a sela. Magdeach Gadol Shanino. But the plain magdeach, the plain drill size that Beishamah we're talking about, is smaller than a sela. Miklal, apparently, the magdeach stam, just a plain magdeach, suchanam mikasela, smaller than a sela. So Beishamah is talking about a smaller shear. Even if it's missing a little bit, it's already tahar. So in fact, they're being lenient. And they still require more missing to lose the tumah, which is up to a sela. Okay, let's go according to Rameir, as we'll see in a minute. The magdeach is small. El Rabbanon, who disagree, then we're stuck again. This now we find in Mishnah, where Rameir says that the magdeach that Beishamai are talking about is the small drill. It's not Beis Magdeach Amru, which Magdeach Beishamai talking about, but Katan Shal Rebbe, the small drill of the doctors, the very Rameir. So Beishamai talking about a smaller hole than Beis Hillel. V'chacham oim megala shalishka. According to Chachamim, supersized drill like the lishka. So according to Chachamim, certainly you can't offer the solution. And even according to Rameir, Beishamai talking about a smaller hole. As soon as it gets stabbed, it already loses tumah, so they're being more lenient than Beis Hillel, which is unlikely. Typically, Beishamai are more strict. Even that, how's that going to work? In which case, you have another example where Beishamai is being lenient, Beis Hillel being strict. And interestingly, we have a list in Meseches Edya. It's giving us a very limited listing. I believe it's about 6 examples where they sort of switched roles. Beishamai were lenient, Beis Hillel were machmer, and this is not included on that list. Vanan, and we, the Snan, the 6 that are listed at Tnan are listed. But that's it, Leitnan. Item that's not there is not there, it doesn't belong there. Okay, so we're stuck again. Here comes yet another proposal to solve this issue. Amar Rav Nachman, Selan and Reina Shininu, K'mek De'ach Gadol. True, the Mishnah there says that the large drill compares to the Sela of Niroinus, of Nir and Kesar. a big drill, a big sela. But sela stam, a regular sela, which Beis Hillel are talking about, zrutra magdeach stam, is small, and even smaller than the standard typical drill hole. In which case, Beis Hillel are referring to a smaller hole than Meshamai. And as soon as it's missing that little bit, it's already tar. So they're being lenient. Now, it's all worked out. Okay, so Beis Shammai talking about a standard drill. You need that much to be missing. Beis Hillel, even a smaller amount is already tar. So we resolved our difficulty. Continues the Mishnah with more examples of movement of blemishes found on the Bechor, which will allow it to be shechted anywhere. Haris shel ayin, the eyelid, shenikav, it's got a hole, shenivkam, it's a chip missing a little bit, shenistak split. That is a mum as per charutz. Charutz talked about in the Torah. Harei be'enei dak. Suppose the eye developed this dak, this membrane covering it. Tevalul. It's mixed up. The white and the black are mixed up. Chilazain, nachash, einav. Some sort of skin growth. Looks like chilazin, like a snail. Nachash, a snake. Einav, a little berry. These are all listed in the Torah, where it says dak, tevalul. All these are qualifying moment. Ezo tevalul. How do we define the tevalul? So we have the white surrounding the black, the retina area. So which way is the strip going? Ezo tevalul. Lovan apaisek basira nechnas b'shach. We're speaking that there's a strip going from the white through the encasement of the black and into the black. That is considered tevalul. But in the reverse, no issue. Shachar nichnas b'lavan ein mum. But if it's going from the black to the white, that's not a mum, because the white is not, the delicate, fragile part of the eye. Mum does not affect the white, as we're going to see in the Gemara. We turn to the base. My haris, Mishnah referred to the wrist. What is that? Papa tura bara, the outer row, outer layer, the end of the eye, meaning the eyelid. Dak tevalul. Tanarabana. Dak mishuka. So this sinking membrane, it appears like it's sunken in. How is a mum? That's a mum itself. It appears floating. Then any mum, it's not an issue. Rashi learns that it makes the whole eye look sunk. Okay. Says in Tani Ifcha, we have a brisa which goes the other way around. That sunken is not an issue and floating is an issue. Like the answer is depends where, on the black or on the white. Ask the Gemara, what do you mean? The white is never affected by movement. Ella, rather, we're talking about the color of the actual membrane. Depends on the color of the membrane. Why? How? The Amar Rabba Barachan. He told us Sachli. Who told me? Rabbi Yesha the Benusha. Dak Shachar Meshuka Rezamum. A black membrane which appears sunken, that's a problem. Tzaf Enimum, if it appears floating, it's not an issue. By the white, it's just the other way around. Dak Lavan Meshuka, if it's a white membrane, looks inverted. Enimum, it's not an issue. Floating is an issue. Tzafar is a mum. A good way to remember is a barka. Barka is something with sheen, shining, white and shining. So if it's white plus, it looks elevated, that's an issue. Chilazon nachash v'etz. What did the Mishnah mean? It's all one and the same. Chilazon hu nachash. Chilazon and nachash is one and the same type of condition. A snail, snake-like growth. Or dilmo, perhaps it's two different conditions. Chilazon oy nachash. Tashmai comes a raya that it's all one and the same thing. Dama Rabba Bar Bachan Sachli Rabbi Yochanan ben Elazar. Rabbi Yochanan ben Elazar told me a story. There was an older scholar who was a kohen who lived in our neighborhood. Zaken Echad Hayiv Shchonaseinu. What was his name? Rabbi Shimon Ben Yosef Lakunya. That was his name, Shimon. I never passed across him because he was a great man. Out of respect, never walked in front of him, except for one time. Pamachas. One time I passed him by. Amrali, he turned to me, Shei, my son, come, have a seat. Let's have a talk. Chilaz and Zemmum. And he showed me a bechor that he had on hand. He says, look, that growth, that chilazin, qualifies as a mum. Zemmum kavua. It's a permanent qualifying mum, l'shchait olav to shech the bechor. And in fact, v'zeu nachash am chacham. This is one and the same as the nachash condition mentioned in the Gemara, mentioned in the Mishnayos. Okay? Now, the obvious question is, how could this great scholar, as great as he was, rule and certify his own bechor. Although we already learned, a person is not authorized to certify his own woman for concern of, negius and lack of objectivity. But in this case, he can do it. But he can teach the halacha to his students, teach them the halachas, and have them rule according to their understanding. But that's what happened here. He sat him down, he taught him, and then the Talmud responded in kind. Asked the Gemara, but in any case, how do we trust a chacham who produces a halacha in response to a circumstance? Perhaps he's just, presenting it as per need. Called Talmud Chacham. Shemoira halacha uba. A Talmud Chacham comes along and teaches us a brand new halacha, first time. Can we accept it? Well, it depends. If it relates to an incident, no. If he relates it before it came into actualization, so it's just, an objective halacha. We accept it. But otherwise, if it's a response to a circumstance, perhaps he's tailoring it as per need. We can't accept it. So here as well. How could we accept the halacha that this is a mum? Says the Gemara, it's old news. This wasn't the first time he taught it. He too, he was teaching it all along. It was old news. It's just that now that it was pertinent, he taught it to this Talmud to certify the mum. What defines a tavall? Love and a paisik asira, the white traveling into the black of the eye. Masisin man Rabbi Yesi, it's called like Rabbi Yesi, the Sanya. Love and nichlas b'shachar. So what the Meir, both ways is an issue. White into black, or shachar nichlas b'lavan, black into white. There is a mum qualifies as a mum to Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yesi, no, only into the black. Love and nichlas b'shachar. So the white traveling into the black, there is a mum, but not the reverse. Shachar nichlas b'lavan ain't a mum. Why? She'ein mumen. Mumen do not affect b'lavan in the white. Amarav, why? My time the Rabbi Yesi, the white is unaffected by mum. The wicked have strayed due to the fatty eyes, their indulgence. The Torah refers to the white as fat. Harba, the fat, the ain of the eye ikri, it's called. A name of the stomach ikri, it's not referred to the eye per se. It's not the primary element of the eye. It's not affected by these conditions. Rameir, who disagrees. He says that even the eye can be affected by taima. He says, look at the pasuk, Maloshan Tavall. What does Tavall mean? Any mix-up in either direction. Davar and Babel Sainai. Here come additional conditions, which are considered mum. Chavarvar, Rashi learns. Choylihu sheyesh tipin levanos ba'ayin. Some call it flecks. It has these like droplets in the eye, some sort of particles. V'amay makvuin. The animal is constantly tearing from his eyes. What's considered a permanent chavar condition? It was present for 80 days, but if it just comes and goes, it doesn't qualify. Rabbi Chaim Antignus Omer, Boitkin Oisai, Gimel Pa'amim, B'toich Shmanim Yayim. So Rashi says it's not enough to check, on day 1 and day 80. Maybe it came and went. You have to check at even intervals within the 80 days, 26 and a half days per examinations. Well, so that is considered a proper inspection regimen. So interesting, machlokes. Rashi says Rashi seems to say you have to check 3 times within the 80, aside from the first time. And Taisus learns that once in the beginning, once in the middle, one in the end. Okay, in any case, you have to confirm that it was there for the entire 80 days. Now, how do we determine that the tearing at the water is also a permanent condition? You have to actually give him a test. Feed him certain feeds and see if the problem still persists. And that confirms that it's considered permanent. So he has to eat his animal feed in a certain sequence, certain type of material. So he ate, moist animal feed and dry animal feed. The Gemara later will tell us the moist grows at the end of the winter, The dry is picked at the end of the summer. Shel Geshamim, coming from a field which suffices with rainwater. That's considered a proper test. If he eats that and he's still tearing, then he's in trouble. But lach v'yavesh shel shalachim, if it's moist and wet of the shalachim, a field which is hand watered, not the best quality field. Or he started with the dry and then over to the moist. That's not a proper indication. Provided that it eats it in sequence, lach and then yavish. The Gemara will explain exactly how this works. Now, masnisan mani, whose opinion is reflected in our Mishnah, that chavarvar hakavua is only if the flecks were there for 80 days. That's Rabbi Yudi, the Sanya we find in the Brisa. That's an 80-day experience. Chavarvar kavua arba'im yom, u'mayim akvuim shmoinim yom. The Rameir says the water is an 80-day experience, but the chavarvar needs to last 40 days to be qualifying. Rabbi Yudi, no, chavarvar is also an 80-day experience to qualify shmoinim yom. Ve'elu in mayim akvuim. So according to Yehuda, again, according to Yehuda, chavarvar is an 80-day experience, but mayim akvuim is tested differently. It's not necessarily day-related. Rather, if it persists throughout this, animal feed testing experience. For Yehuda, chavarvar is shmoinim yom, but ve'elohin mayim akvuim, what qualifies as mayim akvuim? Ochalach v'yavesh shel. All kinds of gerses here. He ate the moist and the dry feed shell beis habal. So again, that's a naturally irrigated field by rainwater. V'loy lach v'yavish, I'm looking at the bach. V'loy lach v'yavish shel beis hashlachan, as opposed to from a hand irrigated field. That doesn't work. Or if he did dry b'achakach and then achalach, it doesn't work. Unless he follows a very specific regimen. So number one, it's from a proper field, naturally, irrigated field, and done in the proper sequence. Yavish after the lach. So first lach and then yavish. He has to undergo a 3-month test. Says the Gemara, Tanani. But if you look back on the Mishnah, it would seem that both of these don't work. Whether it's a naturally irrigated or hand irrigated, either way, it doesn't seem to work based on the Mishnah. No, we have to re-understand the Mishnah. Mishnah is though it's missing some words, and you read it like this: So it was fed the proper material, lach and then yavish, from a naturally irrigated field. That's the proper test. And if the tearing persists, it's a confirmed mum. But otherwise, if it comes from beis hashalachim, which is a manually watered field, that doesn't qualify. Ain't a mum. And again, it has to be in the proper sequence. The kshamim nami, even if it's from a proper field, it has to be moist and then dry. Ochel yavish, and then machaka halach. That's not the proper test. Ain't a mum. Unless he eats yavish after achahalach. So bottom line, it has to come from a proper field, moist and then dry, and it lasts for 3 months. This test, right? Is that true? That it's only 3 months? Vatanya. We have a brisa. When do you find the moist? When is the dry? Different seasons. Adar, v'nisan, lach. So the lach grows Adar, v'nisan, end of the winter. And Elav v'tishra, you have the yavish. Sounds like it's a 4-month plant. Ema. Let's fix it. Adar v'chatzi nisan, lach, ela v'chatzi tishri yavish. So it's a month and a half at a time. Now the question is you have to actually do the month and a half Adar and chatzi nisan, and then wait till the end of the summer to do the other part of the test. Iboilu, lach b'zman lach. So the moist is fed to him during the end of the winter. V'yavish, and the dry b'zman yavish at the end of the summer. So is it seasonal, idilma, or it's just about the material, but it can be fed all at once. Idilma lach v'yavish b'zman alach. Could even be, during winter time, and he's being fed winter and summer feed to conduct the test. Tashma, here comes a riot. Damar ide baravn, Amar bitzal barashin. Ada v'nisan lach, elav tishri yavish. So it sounds like you have to wait and do it in the proper season. This part you do at the end of the winter, this part of the test, end of the summer. No, perhaps it's speaking about the type of feed. But do whatever you want. Perhaps you're just referring to the product of Elul V'Tishrei, the dry and the wet, that he has to be fed. But you can feed it to him at the end of the summer, end of the winter. Okay, so we're not sure about that. Okay, so we speak about what to feed him, when to feed him, but how much? How much do we feed this animal for this test? Not very much. The amount of a dried fig. Okay, how do we feed it to him? What part of the day? Empty stomach, full stomach. That's the question. So is this the first meal of the day? Or perhaps it accompanies every meal. If it's the first meal, empty stomach or full stomach? Before breakfast or after breakfast? Now, if it's on an empty stomach before he has his breakfast, certainly it's going to be effective on an empty stomach. Because some are like medicine. Some are effective, before an empty stomach. So that certainly works. What about on a full stomach? Next question. Before he drinks or after he drinks? Now, before he drinks, certainly it's going to be effective. Go straight to the, But kisari, like barley, is effective. Basically, it certainly works. What about after drinking? Next question. Kosher, is the animal sort of contained? Or mutar is just, free riding, unleashed. Mutar vadim alei, certainly if he's free to roam, he's in a good frame of mind, certainly the text will be very effective and, is a good indication of his condition because he's in a good frame of mind. Nothing holding him back, right? But kosher, let's say if he's, held in and constricted, is that a fair test? Next question, levado im chaver. Is he eating alone or with the whole chavra? Im chaver vadim alef, if he's with the other animals, certainly it's a proper, fair test because in a good frame of mind, a good situation. Levado mai, what if he's alone? Is that a fair test? Bir basada, we're talking in town or out in the field. Basada vadim alef, he's out in the open, free to roam, of course, it's good. Bir mai, what about in town? If you'll tell me that has to be out in the open, the field. What about a garden, which is sort of not really urban, but it's not really the field? If it's a garden next to the city, mai, does it qualify? Take it, we leave it on reserve. One more piece. Rabbi Chanin Matinus Omer. Amar Rav Nachman Yitzchak. So he learns that you have to check him, right? 3 times within the 80 days. We're talking about the particles in the eye, right? Amar Rav Nachman Yitzchak B'vat Yom Shaloshim. The 3 tests have to be evenly spaced in the 80 days. Now comes the Shaila. Boy Minei Pinchas, who is the brother Achva de Mashmuel. He asked his brother Mishmuel, have a Shaila. So you have this tearing eyes, and you give him all the stuff to eat, and V'le'itzi, he doesn't recover, which confirms that it's a permanent condition. Question. This condition is considered permanent going forward or retroactive to when he started tearing. Is that confirmed that the mum was there retroactively from day one? It's just sort of a test to indicate what was there. Or perhaps it's only considered permanent going forward after he resisted all these treatments. What's the difference? Either way, at this point, it's a mum, and until this point, you had to hold back on account of maybe not, right? So what's the point of asking this question? The answer is, suppose a fellow did make pidyon on day 20. He redeemed it. And then a person used that money, misused that money, diverted for personal use. So now, if it turns out that he was always a balmum, in which case that redemption was valid, in which case that money became kaddish, and one who diverts that money for personal use committed me'ilah, moil. However, if the mum condition was only established going forward from the 80 onward, not retroactive, so that pidyon was invalid, and that money was not kaddish, loy moil. So there's no meal on that money. Which way would you go? So upon hearing this question from his brother, who, as Rashi explained, wasn't known to be the sharpest, individual, he was taken aback. He says, wow, such a sharp question from you, that's a real stumper. Kari Shmuel, Lei Shmuel applied to him the pasuk. Pischem, it's like crippled people, Bazazu. Went ahead and Bazazu Baz, they looted the loot, and which is not very feasible for a crippled person to do. How did you come up with such a good question? And you really stumped me. So in effect, it was a compliment. Okay, bottom line, we spoke about the klicheres, which are only mitami mitoichai, klishetev mitami either way, minat Torah, but midrabban. If it has a toich, the tumah can only travel from inside out. We spoke about all kalim becoming tami b'medras, but not klicheres, and we resolved the question of the size of the bit of the magdeach b'shamim yisilo regarding the tumah of the golgolos. We added some more movement to our list: damaged eyelids, cataract in the eye, kinds of growths. We spoke about the flecks in the eye, tearing eyes, how to determine, and in fact these are considered permanent blemishes. Okay, all the best to you and much hatzlacha.